Experts say that for a common victory, Ukraine must inflict 3 times more losses on Russia. Back in December 2023, the head of the Estonian Ministry of Defense stated that in order to defeat the Russian Federation in 2024, the Ukrainian Armed Forces must eliminate about 100,000 enemy soldiers. Forbes reports. According to the results of last year, the Ukrainian Armed Forces killed and wounded more than 200,000 soldiers of the Russian Armed Forces, which is twice as much as Tallinn considered necessary. According to the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Syrsky, in 10 weeks of 2025, Putin's army lost up to 100,000 servicemen on the battlefield. According to the Estonian theory of victory, Ukraine can defeat Russia by destroying more well-trained troops than the Russian military training system can replace, thereby initiating a gradual military collapse. Military experts say the Kremlin can train 130,000 new recruits every 6 months, but not all of them go straight to the front. If the Kremlin only trains 40,000 new recruits every 6 months, it will force Russia to throw untrained soldiers into battle. As a result, the quality of Russian forces will deteriorate. From 2022 to 2023, the Ukrainian Armed Forces sent an average of 172,000 enemy soldiers to the next world every year. By the end of 2024, 210,000 of Putin's soldiers were killed and wounded. So why hasn't the Russian military collapsed? The answer may be that it is collapsing, but very slowly. Analysts recall that the year-long offensive of the Russian armed forces in Donbass stopped in February. Or perhaps it is because Russia is finally running out of well-trained troops and, as a result, losing the ability to mount meaningful offensive actions on a large scale, as analysts in Tallinn had predicted. However, the Ukrainian armed forces also suffer losses. As a result, the situation on the battlefield will again reach a dead end. There will be a picture of 2 exhausted armies inflicting softer and softer blows. Such a dead end would ultimately benefit Russia, Frontelligence Insight explained. This is because Ukraine has 38 million people, while Russia has 144 million. Ukraine must weaken the Russian army faster than Russia weakens the Ukrainian army. At present, the ratio of losses is in Ukraine's favor, but not enough, given the large human reserves of the Russian Federation. Losses on the battlefield should be in the ratio of 1 to 3 and 1 to 1.86. By killing, maiming or forcing to desert 3 Russians for every soldier they lose, the Ukrainians could deplete Russia's most important resource, its people. To achieve such results, Ukraine will continue to need military support from the West.
If there is no ceasefire in the near future, significant changes on the front should not be expected. This was stated in an interview with Gradual by military expert and reserve colonel of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleg Zdanov. According to him, the situation will remain stable. Russian troops will continue to exert pressure, maneuvering between different directions in search of weak spots to concentrate their efforts. At the same time, it is becoming increasingly difficult for them to advance along the entire front line, so they are forced to choose priority areas. At the same time, information and political pressure will increase, aimed at forcing Ukraine to sign a long-term peace. And so, Putin will act on the principle of, "I'll kill myself, but I won't stop," unless some internal fuse goes off in Russia and the elite understands that if Putin is not stopped now, then tomorrow the front may simply fall. At some point, the Russian front may collapse and the soldiers will run. So an operational pause is not Putin's desire, but a real inevitability for Russia today. Given the state of the Russian Federation's economy and the state of the Russian army, that's it. Russia has already passed its plateau, and all that lies ahead is a decline. And the longer it drags out the war, the greater the decline, Zdanov said. Zdanov believes that Putin has reached a dead end because he cannot stop. He compared the situation to a crocodile which is caught by sticking a stake in its throat and not giving it the opportunity to retreat. In the end, the predator impales itself. In the same way, Putin, understanding the difficult economic and financial situation in the Russian Federation, is unable to change course. Zdanov also suggested that if Ukraine completely leaves the Kursk region, Russia will transfer its troops from there to the Kharkiv direction or try to attack the Sumy region. This will allow it to stretch Ukrainian reserves and create a threat of a breakthrough in key areas of the front. I emphasize, it's not even a breakthrough, but only a threat of a breakthrough, he summed up. NATO should start preparing now by making its primary air bases less vulnerable to Russian Kedra medium-range ballistic missiles, also known as Oreshnik, says Deka Eveleth in a report for Foreign Policy. Russia struck Dnipro with a multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle missile with conventional warheads on the 21st of November. Ukraine identified the weapon as an intermediate-range ballistic missile launched from a Kedra missile system. Russia has never used such a weapon against Ukraine before. An investigation of the attack and assessment of the damage is ongoing. This can be achieved by dispersing aircraft to secondary runways and highways across Europe, making them harder to target. The report highlights that the use of long-range ballistic missiles could significantly alter Russia's strategy in a future conflict with NATO, posing a real threat. Despite its high cost, the missile is well suited for attacking air bases where its sub-munition can cause substantial harm. In a war with NATO, Russia is likely to attack the alliance's air bases in the opening days of a conflict. Russia is well aware of NATO's air superiority, and it hopes to give its forces some breathing room by destroying or at least delaying NATO's ability to respond, says the report. The Analyst points out that modern fighter jets, especially the F-35, are too complex to repair in field conditions. Decades of budget cuts have also concentrated NATO's air forces on a few key bases, making them especially vulnerable to Kedra missiles. While Russian missiles with conventional warheads failed to incapacitate key Ukrainian air bases due to low accuracy and effective air defense, Kedra can help Russia resolve this issue. Based on Russia's performance in Ukraine, it may take dozens of conventional Iskander missiles to destroy aircraft at major air bases. It would take far fewer Oreshniks to achieve a similar effect, says the analysis. Experts suggest that using Kedra missiles gives Russia more non-nuclear options, lowering the risk of early nuclear escalation. They provide Russia with increased opportunities to disrupt NATO's operations. The problem is that European defense systems are not fully equipped to counter medium-range ballistic missiles. While many NATO bases are protected by layered missile defense, Kedra can fly beyond the interception range of most systems and descends too quickly for interceptors like the Patriot air defense system. Interceptors capable of stopping them, such as the Arrow 3 and SM-3 Block IIA, will likely be deployed in limited quantities if current procurement trends continue. Regardless of how the war in Ukraine ends, in a decade or two, NATO may face a rearmed Russia wielding a reconstituted arsenal in which large conventional ballistic missiles like the Oreshnik feature prominently. The report concludes,